Isolated shower during the afternoon tomorrow. Details ahead on Fox 11.
Jurors reach a verdict in the trial of former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin. More on the decision and the reaction tonight.
Plus, hundreds of jobs could be coming to Wisconsin after a deal with Foxconn. Why that number is smaller than the original plan that could have brought thousands.
Balanced news and severe weather coverage. This is Fox 11 News at 9.
After 3 weeks of testimony,
Count 1, unintentional second-degree murder while committing a felony, find the defendant guilty.
And dozens of witnesses.
Count 2, third-degree murder perpetrating an eminently dangerous act, find the defendant guilty.
The trial against former officer Derek Chauvin has ended.
Count 3, second-degree manslaughter, culpable negligence, creating an unreasonable risk, find the defendant guilty.
The jury finding Chauvin guilty for the murder of George Floyd.
Let George know that his name is going down in history.
From Minnesota
to Washington, people celebrated the victory.
No one should be above the law. And today's verdict sends that message, but it's not enough.
A verdict in the case against former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin. Tonight, we begin with team coverage of Chauvin's trial and reaction to that verdict. On the left is a live picture of the streets of Minneapolis right now. On the right is downtown Oshkosh. Emotions are high in both cities, and for many, the overall mood is one of celebration. The jury took 10 hours over 2 days to reach its verdict. Members found Chauvin guilty on all 3 counts for the death of George Floyd.
Spotlight on America national correspondent Josie Sturman was in Minneapolis when the crowd heard the verdict.
A swell of emotion, jubilation in the courtyard outside the Hennepin County Government Center as a crowd of hundreds heard the 3 words they've been waiting for since May 25th, 2020.
We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 1, unintentional second-degree murder while committing a felony, find the defendant guilty. Third-degree murder perpetrating an eminently dangerous act, find the defendant guilty. Second-degree manslaughter, culpable negligence, creating an unreasonable risk, find the defendant guilty.
Inside the courtroom, former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin, now the one in handcuffs, wearing a mask and showing no emotion as he was led away in anticipation of his sentencing June 15th. Outside, crowds in celebration under the watchful eye of National Guard troops perched on the ledge of the heavily guarded courthouse, those below honoring George Floyd's memory, with signs, dancing, even parked at the center of the spontaneous gathering, a car covered in artwork bearing signatures and messages of hope, with those in attendance adding their stamp. But even with the joyful mood and acknowledgement, Wednesday's decision is just the beginning.
No one verdict is going to bring justice to the communities, in black and brown communities, especially in the black community. And so although it feels good right now, there's still just so much more justice that needs to be served for all the folks who have been murdered at the hands of police.
Across town, outside of the now infamous Cup Foods site where Floyd was murdered, another crowd crying out with relief, where Floyd once cried out for his mother with his final breath. Reaction pouring in from strangers who never met the man at the center of one of the nation's most watched trials.
Today, we are able to breathe again.
As the family and friends who knew him best mourned their loss, keeping their focus on the fight moving forward.
This is a victory for those who champion humanity over inhumanity, those who champion justice over injustice, those who champion morals over immorality. Justice for George means freedom for all.
For Spotlight on America, I'm Josie Sturman.
3 other former officers are also headed to trial in this case. J. Alexander Kang, Thomas Lane, and Tu Tao are all charged with aiding and abetting second-degree murder and manslaughter. None of them testified at Chauvin's trial. All 3 are set to go on trial together in August.
President Biden says today's verdict is a step toward racial justice in America, but he added that more needs to be done, calling racism a stain in our nation's soul.
So we can't leave this moment or look away thinking our work is done. We have to look at it, we have to look as we did for those 9 minutes and 29 seconds. We have to listen. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. Those are George Floyd's last words. We can't let those words die with him. We have to keep hearing those words. We must not turn away. We can't turn away.
Floyd family attorney Ben Crump posted this video on Facebook showing a phone call moments after the guilty verdict was read. President Biden and Vice President Harris called the Floyd family to congratulate them. The attorney said this will generate momentum for the George Floyd Policing Act. Biden responded, "You got it, pal. That and a lot more." Former President Barack Obama responded to the verdict on Twitter, saying the jury did the right thing. He continues on to say he and his wife send prayers to the Floyd family, and we stand with all those who are committed to guaranteeing every American the full measure of justice that George and so many others have been denied. Wisconsin Senator Tony Evers is also speaking out. On Twitter, he said, "While this is a moment of accountability in our justice system and our country, we are reminded that justice for Black lives is not a moment. It requires meaningful, sustained, and systemic change." Republican Senator Tim Scott from South Carolina says, while this outcome should give us renewed confidence in the integrity of our justice system, we know there is more work to be done to ensure the bad apples do not define all officers.
Ahead of the jury's decision today, Minnesota's governor declared a state of emergency. He brought in 3,000 members of the Minnesota National Guard to brace for possible violence. Businesses also boarded up in fear of any protests, but tonight we aren't seeing that.
They may have put their knee on his neck, but he will now be a figure that we will take the knees off our necks now, and we give you the praise. Thank you, and God, we give you the glory.
To the Floyd family, we grieve for you. Today is a small measure, but George is not coming back. Child lost father, brother, an uncle, a friend. We mourn with you, and we promise the pursuit will continue for justice.
Some people in Oshkosh were out this evening rallying in response to the verdict.
Like many, they said finding Derek Chauvin guilty was the right decision. Fox 11's Katrina Nickel has more from the rally.
At the Sundial in downtown Oshkosh, a group of people gathered not even an hour after the guilty verdict of Derek Chauvin was announced.
Send those killer cops to jail!
Sierra Hill told us she heard the news while picking up her 3-year-old daughter from preschool.
I just was crying because it's been a long time coming. There's been so many disappointments when it comes to verdicts.
She says it's been an overwhelming year.
I've had so many different emotions. I've been angry. I've been sad. I've been, devoted more than ever to do my part in advocating for the Black community.
Sophia Wenzel says the news was something to celebrate.
While I'm so happy for George Floyd's family and for everyone to finally get some justice for one victim of police violence.
But along with the good news, she says, also comes a harsh reality she wants people to recognize.
I'm very sad for all of the families whose victims' names aren't being said, for the victims who have not gotten justice. I think it's a bigger issue.
Working on solving that bigger issue is why Wenzel says they continue to rally together.
We really want to educate the community on some potential changes to the system that could be made, as well as just let everyone know that we're not done.
Sierra Hill wants to see those changes made right here in Oshkosh.
Law enforcement and local government, especially here in Oshkosh, take action and work with the Black community and work with communities of color to come up with solutions, to be proactive, not reactive.
And that the work needed is a work in progress.
And something that is continuing. It's not a one-time thing. It needs to be continuing education because things are always evolving.
In Oshkosh, Katrina Nickel, Fox 11 News.
Organizers say they're planning on gathering in Appleton tomorrow. We will continue to cover all of the latest on the Chauvin verdict on air and online at fox11online.com. Just click within this story on our front page.
We're bringing you breaking news now from Columbus, Ohio. A 15-year-old girl is dead after an officer-involved shooting there. Family members identify her as Micaiah Bryant. Police responded to an attempted stabbing report in the area. It is not known yet what led to the shooting. Columbus's mayor says body cam footage is being reviewed. A group of protesters gathered outside the home after the incident was reported.
I am disgusted. I'm hurt. I'm in shock. We just celebrated a guilty verdict that was good for the nation, good for global society at large. Simultaneously taking that hope and just crushed it right in the city we're fighting for.
People in Columbus are now protesting in the downtown area. Head to fox11online.com for updates. 4 years ago, Fox